Hey everybody, how's it going? It's the Daily Shooter, and today we're going to be talking about the top 5 things not to do if you are a new gun owner. So let's go ahead and get started. This channel is proud to be supported by the USCCA. The U.S. Concealed Carry Association helps responsible Americans like you prepare for what happens before, during, and after an act of lawful self-defense. USCCA members get life-saving education, expert training, plus defense liability insurance. These benefits provide more than 500,000 USCCA members with the peace of mind that they deserve. Plus, a USCCA membership is always risk-free with their 100% money-back, bulletproof guarantee. Membership is truly an investment worth exploring. Click the most important link you might click ever down below and activate your U.S. Concealed Carry Association membership now. Now, this top 5 list actually came from things I've seen new gun owners do and things that I don't recommend. Number 1, don't get your first pistol or handgun and then run straight to Walmart and buy a universal or a flimsy holster. Don't buy something like an Uncle Mike's that's made out of cheap material. Get yourself something that's made out of good quality leather or Kydex that's made specifically to fit your pistol. Now, I'm sure there's going to be people that ask why. I mean, they sell them at Walmart. They're only $10 and people obviously buy them. Well, they're dangerous. They're dangerous because they don't protect the trigger well enough. A good leather or Kydex holster has strong material. It's going to protect the trigger from impacts or things possibly getting into that trigger guard. Imagine you have a holster on you that's made of flimsy material and you walk past a table with a corner on it, right? And you walk past that table and you accidentally bump into it. Well, if it's not protecting the trigger guard well enough, then that table might have just enough corner to be able to get in there. And obviously what happens when you pull the trigger? Bang, it goes off. And it's going to go off when you don't want it to. So protecting the trigger is one of the most important things that you can get out of a holster. So proper fit, proper material. Don't go to Walmart, don't go anywhere else and get yourself a cheap, flimsy holster. And number 2, this is one that I see all the time. This will drive anybody who knows anything about safety nuts. It'll drive people who have experience with firearms crazy. This is something that I see far too often. I see it from people at gun shops. I see it from people at gun ranges. Keep your damn finger off the trigger. It is extremely important. There's a pretty good chance if you don't put your finger on the trigger and you just keep the trigger clear, nothing bad is going to happen. But if you have to put your finger on the trigger, make sure that it's pointed in a safe direction and you check it first. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a shop or a range or something and somebody will hand somebody a gun and just because they're new, their immediate reaction is to take their hand and hold it with their finger on the trigger. Now this thing's been safety checked about 1,000 times. There's no magazine, there's nothing in the chamber, nothing that could be hidden anywhere. So I know that this is safe, and right now it's pointed in a safe direction, okay? But there are a lot of people that just grab it, they think, oh, this is really cool, and their finger goes boop right on there, and they're like, yeah, this is great, and they point it all around the place with their finger on the trigger because they think naturally that's just where it goes. Keep your finger up here. Imagine that you're pointing at somebody, right? You're holding something. Imagine that you're pointing at somebody and then you want to point at their face. So that's kind of what you do is you have your hand pointed at somebody, but you're pointing it at their face, your finger, right? The same concept here. You put your hand on it, you point it up just a little bit like that. That keeps your finger up and away from the trigger. Just don't put your finger on the trigger until you're ready to fire, okay? That is the most important thing. And if you're at a gun shop, check it first. Doesn't matter if it came from glass, doesn't matter if it came from behind the counter or somebody handed it to you. You don't know the condition of it. Go like this, make sure that it's empty, make sure that everything looks empty and ready to go. Then if you want to test fire it, point it in a safe direction and you can test fire it. Other than that, no trigger. Okay, so number 3, and this is one that kind of disturbs me because I don't think people understand the potential for problems here, but I've been to multiple concealed carry classes in 3 different states. I've also filmed a bunch of different concealed carry classes for different companies. One thing that I can tell you is there's a lot of people out there that will go and buy their first firearm simply for the purpose of concealed carry, and they'll go through a class because some classes require shooting and some classes don't. They'll go through a class and then they plan on getting their permit and carrying before they've ever even shot it. So number 3, shoot before you carry. There's several reasons why. 1, you don't know if you're going to be any good with it. I don't know, whatever it could be, it might not work for you. Number 2, it may not work at all. You may pick it up for the very first time and find that there's a broken firing pin or a spring is out of place or out of spec. The barrel could be out of spec, maybe it doesn't load, maybe it's stovepipe at every shot. And if you don't know that, and then you're carrying this thing around, and then the time comes to where you actually need to use it, and it doesn't work, well, it doesn't do you any good. Might as well be just a big hunk of plastic or metal. So you need to go out and you need to shoot it a little bit to see, one, how proficient are you? Can you actually hit your target? Because remember, you're responsible for everything that comes out of that barrel. So if you got a guy standing in front of you and he's the intended target, but for some reason you're shooting all around him like you're intending to miss him, and you end up hitting somebody else behind him, that's going to be on you, and you're going to be responsible for that. So make sure that you're proficient, you know if your weapon is going to work, and how to use it before you even go through the process of getting your concealed carry permit. It is extremely important. Plus you have constitutional carry states too, where people might go out, they'll go to the shop, they'll buy something, never ever use it, and then it'll be holstered by the time they hit their car. They don't know if it works, but they got ammo in the magazine, maybe one loaded in the chamber, which is what I suggest, but they've never used it, so you don't know. You don't know if you're any good with it, you don't even know if it's going to work. So again, number 3, shoot it before you get your permit or you carry it. Now, number 4 is a little bit more rare, but still something worth mentioning for those people out there who maybe don't understand. If you bought your first pistol, do not buy reloads from a buddy. Do not buy reloads from some guy down the street who reloads and then sells, 100 rounds in a Ziploc baggie. Do not buy reloads. There are reasons that companies use very high-tech equipment and that they have the proper machines to load ammunition. Even if it's reloads from a reputable manufacturer, those would be better than buying reloads from some random guy. They have things that will weigh the final cartridge to see if maybe there's double the powder or if there's not enough powder. And so the weight of the cartridge will tell them whether or not it's good to go or not. There are a lot of different variables, and if you're new to shooting, you might miss those variables. For instance, if you were to get something that's a reload that has a double charge, and you have something that you bought that's not rated for extra pressure, so you might see things on a box that says plus P, right? That's plus pressure, or plus P plus, depending on what you have. If you get something that has a double powder charge in it, let's say for a 9mm, 40, 45, whatever the case might be, and you pull that trigger, it could completely destroy your firearm and could injure you. So you could end up getting injured. The guy who's making reloads down the street's probably trying to crank them out as fast as he can. Quality control is probably not there, and maybe don't even get reloads from your Uncle Frank, okay? Because you want to make sure that you have good ammunition that is loaded correctly every single time. Also, there's a thing called a squib. A squib happens when there's not enough of a powder charge behind the bullet, okay, to properly send it all the way down the barrel. Sometimes there's no powder at all, it's just a primer. There's not enough pressure to get that bullet all the way down. Somebody who is new to shooting may not understand what that sounds like. It sounds like a pop, and you might think, oh, well, something just happened. I don't know exactly what it was, but my gun didn't cycle. So you cycle in the next round, not knowing that there's still a bullet in that barrel. Now, you pull the trigger again, you fire that bullet down, it hits the bullet that's in front of it, creating a ton of back pressure and doing the same thing that would happen as if you had a double powder load, okay? It's going to cause damage to the firearm and maybe damage to you. So, again, get good quality ammunition. Get good quality ammunition. I cannot recommend that enough. Now, the last one, number 5, is a little bit different because this kind of applies to people who have not bought their first firearm quite yet. They're out there, they're shopping, they're not exactly sure what to get. My one piece of advice is don't go too big. I don't mean necessarily the pistol. Don't go too big on the pistol. Don't go too big on the caliber, okay? Somebody might recommend to you, oh, if you want stopping power, you got to go with a 45 or you got to go with a 10mm or you should go with a 44 Magnum or something like that. That'll stop them. That'll put them down. If you're like 65, 70 years old, okay, and you go with a 44 Magnum, you might get off that one shot, but there's a pretty good chance you're not going to get off the second shot. And you might even injure yourself. Go with the proper caliber for your strength and your stature. I've seen too many people go out there, little frail, 18-year-old girls with a 12-gauge shotgun with a slug in it and get knocked to the ground because it was just too much for them. It was too much for their size, for their muscle strength. It's too much. Get something that you think you're going to handle. Most people can handle a 9mm just fine. So if you're at an age or at a strength level where you don't want to shoot something that's a little bit too big, maybe go with a 9. .380, that sounds like it's a little bit smaller, but it can be kind of poppy. 9mm is a pretty good choice, but if you are somebody who, let's say, is in poor physical health and you just want to be able to protect yourself, but maybe you just don't have, you know, the strength, or maybe you're in a wheelchair, you don't have the ability to hold something that's big or heavy or even shoot a smaller caliber, I would go with the 22 before I went with nothing. Right? So I would go with a 22 before I went with nothing, but get the proper caliber for you. A 22 is not ideal for self-defense. It's not necessarily where I would go to if I was going to defend myself, but if it was my only choice based on certain aspects of my life, then I would go with it over having not anything at all. But go with a caliber that best suits you. If you walk in there and, you know, you're 25 years old and you go to the gym every single day and you want to carry a 10mm, by all means, go ahead and do that. This is a 7.5 FK right here. It looks like it's a small round, but this actually produces a pretty big amount of recoil. So understand the ammunition that's out there, understand what you're looking at, watch some videos, see what people say about it, and get the proper caliber for you. Don't listen to anybody else if they're telling you, oh, you have to go big or it's not going to work. Not the case at all. So that's my top 5 things not to do if you are somebody who's new to firearms. If you guys have anything else that you want to add, go down to the description box. If you're new to firearms, read the description box. There's a lot of people that watch this channel that are extremely knowledgeable, that'll have things to add to my top 5 that might be able to help you out. I understand it's the internet. People like to talk a lot of crap on the internet. It's the internet, right? But if you guys are out there watching, you have a lot of experience with firearms, feel free to jump into anybody who has questions down there and help them understand exactly what to do. That's kind of like our responsibility to soldier on the next set of people that's going to take up after us, that's going to take up arms. So, you know, we have to be supportive for those people that are new to the Second Amendment, and definitely don't scare them away. So I want to thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. Please like, subscribe. Have a good day.